Oh, hello there. Thank you for tuning in. We watched another movie, and here we are, doing a TNC movie review. This one was a little interesting, though, because, Brandon, why don't you tell them why it was so special?
Yeah, so it was the first recommendation we've actually had for TNC movie nights, and it was from a good friend of mine and some of the other TNC nerds. It was Heather. You guys might remember she was on one of our previous TNC Live episodes, GirlonFireCosplay, if you want to go and check out her fantastic cosplay, her very fun stream to watch as well on twitch.tv/GirlonFireCosplay. But she recommended an anime film for us. I don't know if that's a proper way to say it. I'm relatively new to anime. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
It's been I've been watching for 2 years, and I'm still just learning how to watch subbed. So give us a break. But this was it was a lot of fun because it's a different world for us, especially Alex. I mean, this is much newer to you, and I'm very excited to kind of see where it kind of took you a little bit, since this is a slightly different path than you're used to.
Yeah, so I have never really been into anime. Not that I've ever been crazy against it. It's just never super got into it, so I didn't follow that path of seeing all the things that you should see if you're a fan of anime. And so when this was recommended, I was like, okay, that'll be interesting. You know, not a huge fan. I'm not well versed in the subject or anything like that. But we didn't even say the name of the movie. We watched Your Name, by the way. That's the name of the movie. And it's awesome. That movie was so good. It was so good. Thank you for recommending it, because I never in a million years would have watched this. But I was sitting right here watching this screen, and I moved the mic away, so I was all set up, and then it was just oh my god, by the end of it, I was invested, and I was lost, and it was so good. Oh man, what'd you think?
I'm very pleased to hear that, because I was worried that we were going to watch this and you're going to be it's kind of weird. It was okay, but it's kind of weird. I know. So I'm definitely glad you enjoyed it. And I'll be honest, to start, I didn't really care for it. And then it picked up. And the story started going, and I started to understand what was going on. I think my problem was I kind of got lost. I was a little confused exactly what was going on. But then once we figured out, okay, the two characters, they're taking each other's places per se. And I really got into it as well, and I really did enjoy this movie by the end of it. So thank you so much for the recommendation. And again, if anyone out there has more recommendations for us, could be anime, it could be a foreign film.
Anything.
Could be something completely out of our wheelhouse, but we are happy to check it out and, give our thoughts on it. But we will dive a bit deeper into this movie. Alex, I'll let you go ahead and take the reins to start. I guess I do have a question for you. From an anime film to a normal film, what are kind of some of the differences that you saw? I guess maybe of course, other than just it being animated and it not being animated, but I guess, are there any sort of culture differences and stuff that you maybe kind of noticed? Because I know you're much more of the film critic than I.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily specific to just this movie, but just it's a totally different form of media from an entirely different place. So I think, and again, I'm not well versed in anime, but I've seen a couple. I've watched videos about a couple of them, and so the style wasn't a shock or anything to me. But yeah, definitely there's just a lot of stuff, some things that get emphasized, some things that don't. It's visually beautiful, which I guess not necessarily is anything different, but yeah, it's just really good. But I wanted to piggyback off of what you said when you're saying the beginning was a little confusing, and I love that, because I was confused too, but that was on purpose, and then you figured out it was on purpose later. We also watched nothing before this. I don't know if you did. I didn't watch any trailers. I didn't read any synopsis. Just went into this with the credits starting, and I was like, all right, cool, let's do this. Super cool intro. And I love how they brought it back. That was just points of the movie. Points. but yeah, that the introduction, it gets your mind into that, like, what's going on here? They're not really giving me a whole lot. Because it turns out, when you have a movie, you can just show them things. You don't have to tell. Show, don't tell. Less is more. You still want to get across all the points of your movie, but you don't have to do that in the first 10 seconds. And so this one just kind of opened up, and then you're like, why is she acting all weird? That was weird. And then she's just like, they cut to what we found out later was a different day. And everyone's like, what was with that yesterday? And then you're like, oh, wait, that was, okay, so this isn't the same day. That was yesterday. Because we're humans with brains, and we can put those things together. It doesn't have to say 24 hours later or open up with a big date screen. They can just do that, and then someone says, oh, you were weird yesterday. And then your brain goes, oh, so the weird thing that we saw was a different day. And then you're slowly putting it together, and you're like, oh, these dreams that they mentioned, and now it's this guy. Oh my God, they're swapping bodies. And you get to have those sort of aha moments instead of someone just going, here is a story of two people who swap bodies. Here you go. And you're like, thank you.
Thanks, weird man.
But I haven't started the movie yet. And then you're just like, okay. Wow, she's acting kind of weird. Oh, wait a minute. 2 days later. You're like, oh, okay, so it's a different day now. Thank you. I couldn't get that from the context of everybody saying yesterday. I didn't realize that. So I really appreciate when movies do that, and I really love it when you just kind of have to figure it out, and then you do. They give you enough so that way you can follow along and you're not completely lost. But they only give you enough for you to be like, oh, more. Not just like, all the information. So, I mean, oh my God, it was amazing. And then I don't know. Don't want to jump too much. So we can get back to you. Go ahead.
It sounds good. And I will warn for anyone who has not seen Your Name, we are going to talk some spoilers in it. I would definitely recommend to check it out before you listen, unless, maybe listening to us will then push you to go see it. And if so, hopefully we helped make the movie sound somewhat intriguing. And I agree. And that's what I did like, though, Alex. And at the same time, didn't like. Because at first, I thought it was just confusing. I thought it was just poor writing. And I was having a difficult time. I was a little confused. I was starting to lose a little bit of interest. At the perfect time, though, they pull you back in, explain, and unravel some of the things that were kind of unknown. But again, not everything, as you said, they didn't throw everything at us. Up until the last 15 minutes in the movie, we were still collecting new information, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. It wasn't we know where this is going, here's the end point, and we're waiting to get there. It's new stuff, and then we reach an ending. And we'll definitely get into that a little bit more, but our episode that came out on Wednesday, since this is releasing on Saturday, is about movie endings. And we got lucky again. This movie does a beautiful job of really, I don't want to say throwing you for a loop, but really kind of surprising you at times. And then there's even some portions I was like, oh, this is going to be the ending. And then it keeps going. I'm like, okay. And then it keeps getting more and more in depth. And I really do appreciate about Your Name a lot. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of try to stay focused on the more beginning portion of the movie, after I was able to collect the data that I needed to understand what was going on, it really grabbed my attention. Something I do love about anime is I love the animatedness of the feelings and emotions of characters. It's a little over the top, but not way over the top where it's like kind of cringy or anything like that for someone who's not used to anime. It's just the right amount where you're like, okay, this is not normal to me, but I get it because it is in a different culture, different area of, creating media. So it is very well done. I'll go ahead and throw it back over to you so I don't take over too much.
No. We just, this was just really good. And like you were saying, some of the over-the-top stuff, I kind of chalk that up to just being a movie, because the
Yeah.
same thing happens with if you watch just like a regular movie. And we talked about that before, when it's so refreshing to see someone have a genuine conversation, because so many movies, you hear something, you're like, that's not how people talk. That's not what an actual person would do or say or react or whatever. And so it's just, I think it's just that the fact that it is a movie where you're just like, okay, things are going to be a little bit dialed up, but I appreciate how it was still like very logical in the way that they acted and reacted, and they still seemed like people. Like the whole leaving the diary notes in there so everyone can read it, genius, because that's probably what you would do if you found yourself switching bodies with someone. You were like, oh, okay, they left a note, I don't know what the hell that is, and then later on you figure, oh my god, this is happening, that's what it was. So you just keep communicating, and you have phones. Hello, just do it. And then they just did, and then that was over. Like that stressor or that hurdle, that obstacle to overcome, and that was it, because that's all it needed to be. And it wasn't something that movies are so guilty of, where they take such a tiny little thing and they stretch it out as if it would ever in the real world be an actual conflict. And you're just like, this isn't how people, that's not how a person is a person. Like, this whole thing that you're going to base the entire movie on would have been solved in about 2 minutes when someone went, what the hell was that? And you'd go, right? And you're like, all right, so that's how people would react. And so that was a nice thing, that wasn't like 45 minutes of, oh no, sometimes I'm another person. And it's just like, just write a note. And then they just did. So it was great.
And that is something I want to touch on as well. I really like the use of the phones as diaries, and the first time we saw it, there was a bunch of entries. So this was the first time they were noticing it, because they started writing on their arms and on pieces of paper, like in their notebook and stuff like that, to kind of help maybe force. Because maybe at first they're like, I'm just gonna start writing the diary. You know, this person will see it in the like the notepad in the phone, but then they pull up the phone at one point and there's like 20 entries prior that they probably never saw because they didn't think about looking in there yet. And I love how they were able to kind of like, oh, what's all this weird writing on me? Okay, someone's leaving me notes. And then they saw a note physically, and then they found him in the phone. So it was this kind of build up of, they were trying to give hints to the person that they were like in their body, in a sense. So I really did enjoy that that plot point for a lot, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And there was only one thing that I didn't like at first, and then the movie very quickly just like told me why I was wrong. And that was when they were going over how he got the bracelet that he had. And he was just like, couldn't remember. Yeah, I got it from this one person this one time. And then later you find out that was such a key moment in like their relationship. That whole dynamic was based off of that moment. And then I was like, how the hell would you forget that? If some stranger came up to me, teary-eyed, said my name, and then was just like panicked and then threw a string at me, and then I caught it and I wore it for 3 years, I think I would remember. Be like, yeah, this crazy lady on the subway just like threw this at me, but I like it, so I kept it. That's a story. But then that's not the only thing. Like, it was the whole idea of like them forgetting and them needing to remember, and that like the whole like strings of time thing breaking apart and coming together, and all of like, they set the table perfectly. All of that made sense once it clicked in my head. I was like, oh no, you idiot, it's because of all of it. It's because, you know, everything is kind of wibbly wobbly timey wimey right now. And so it was perfect. And it, like I said, immediately corrected the only issue I had. And then I was like, no, I'm just stupid. Never mind. This movie's great.
And I had the same sort of thing on my end as well, kind of back to the leaving notes. Because at first I was like, why don't you just call? Why don't you just text them? And then they explain really well that they're actually not even in the same time. So again.
And not even that, too. Because he tried to call. And then she tried to call him. And it was like the cellular
Yep.
provider is not in service, and you're like, oh, I wonder why. And then yeah, like you said, it's like, oh shit, they're several years apart.
Yeah. So this movie honestly had so many layers to it. I would love to go back and rewatch it knowing the information that they kind of lead you with, because now I can just focus on, okay, I want to take apart this movie a little bit more and understand it and develop more things with it, rather than trying to figure out the story, which fantastic story, honestly. And I'm so mad. I'm just so mad right now because when Heather first brought up this movie, I just looked it up. I typed it in and said romance, drama, and I was like, we'll watch it, but I'm not gonna like it. And then I told her, like, hey, I'll let you know. We'll try to watch it. I don't know if Alex has ever even heard the word anime. Like, of course, not that extreme. And then I was like, I really don't like romance drama. Just not my thing. And she's like, I promise, it's not exactly that. Give it a shot, please. And I hate you, Heather, so much because you were so right.
I don't. Thank you. That was awesome.
Like, thank you so much. I just hate that you're right, because that movie, it was fantastic. And but I'll let you take it over from here, and then I don't know where you want to lead it from here. If you want to go into the endings of movies, or if you have a little bit more to say prior to us wrapping that portion up.
Yes. So the ending of this movie, just like so much happened that if we were gonna like deep dive even just the last half hour, it would take like an hour. So I'll just summarize by saying like that like shrine thing, super rad to make that like the focal point. The magic hour, love it. That's fun. It's a cool way to get them to finally connect. And then like, oh shit, it's over. And then when the meteor hit, that was insane. And I love that. This is such a super specific thing, but I love when movies show just like that complete devastation with like silence, because that's how it is. You don't get a build up, you don't get a soundtrack, you don't have strings getting faster and faster as they play when the thing is happening. It's just like silence, chaos. And so watching it fall, and then remembering that was from the beginning, you're like, oh, that's what this was. And then you see it happen, you're like, oh Jesus. And then the sound hits you, and then the destruction hits you, and you're like, whoa, that was intense. But then you find out that the plan worked, and you're like, oh snap, it worked. And it takes you a while to figure out it worked. And even when it happens, you're just like, your whole brain is like, what is happening? And then they just cut to like 5 years later. And they don't just say 5 years later. Like, you got to figure it out, because you see him in a suit and you're like, that's not what he normally wears. And you see him doing pitches and you're like, he's not in high school anymore. What happened? And then they go past that sign of the thing, the meteor, 8 years ago, and you're like, wait a minute, that was 3 years ago. It's been 5 years since that happened, since his version of that happened. And then just like the crossing and the pet, like I was there like, how is this movie gonna end? Is this gonna be like they never get to see each other again, or they finally gonna cross paths? And I love the way they ended it, and it wasn't like, it felt like a little bit of both, because you didn't get that like mushy gushy, like everyone remembers everything happily ever after, but it gives you something more than just like bye. Because you need, like, I felt that I was like, come on, do something. And then it was just like, can I ask your name? And credits, and I was like, just brilliant. And that's the perfect way to do it. It's the exact, like, we talked about this ending so much in our last episode. The story, that story is done. But the whole story, not even close. But it feels right, because they told an entire story. And so when they rolled the credits like that, it wasn't shocking. You weren't like, wait, what are you talking about? You didn't even tell me. You didn't do it. It was like completely done. But there's also so much more that can happen after that. But that would be the start of a new story about these same people. So it felt right, and it left you wanting more, but satisfied at the same time. And so I just like this movie, man. This is just really good.
I'm definitely glad you enjoyed it this much. And I think one of the big things for me for the ending, there were a couple moments I really thought it was going to end when they were standing up on the crater. Crater, right? Yeah.
Like the volcano thing, yeah. And then it was like the shrine in the middle and all that.
Yeah, when they were standing on the outskirts of it. Yeah, I thought it was going to end right when she like faded away. I thought it was going to end right there. Then I thought it was going to end once they said like, oh, people are okay. And then I thought it was going to end there. And then it kept going. And I'm really glad it ended where it did. Because if it would have ended at those other spots, there was too much left. But then they gave us, as you said, just enough where you have it thinking of, but what's next? But then at the same time, you're at, oh, that ended really well.
Like, so. Oh, they met. Okay, they remember.
But wait.
But what happens now? It was, oh, man, it was so great. Yeah, I was so scared they were going to end it as the meteor hit.
Yeah.
And that was just going to be it. It was going to be like, game over. Good night. Did they survive? Probably not. You'll never know. It's like, no, don't do this to me. But yeah, they gave you enough to be like fully satisfied, but still totally wanting more. Man, this is a nice change. We've reviewed so many crappy movies. We tried to do like good, bad. I don't know if that really worked. It did for a little while, but it's nice to have like a really good movie, especially with what's coming next week. But it was so nice to just watch something new and great.
Alex, but what is coming next week?
Well, Brandon, you and I are descending into the gates of hell, and we are on purpose going to spend money to, on purpose, purchase and then watch Doolittle. So that way you can once again see me completely lose my mind over something so meaningless in the grand scheme of eternity. But here we are, for you out there watching this, all four of you, so you can watch it with us. And so Brandon can watch it, and he can see how truly awful this movie is. I'm not looking forward to it.
I'm excited for one last hurrah. Yeah, one last hurrah of Doolittle. It's been brought up. It was its prelude, the beginning, and then we got a full meaty heart of it, and now this is going to be the nice climax ending. And I'm sure it'll be brought up again at some point, later episodes, just hinted at, just so you guys remember that one time when they little things.
Not as bad as Doolittle, right? You got it. But no, we'll finally be able to put it to bed so I can stop talking about this freaking movie.
I'm extremely excited. But
great.
As we mentioned earlier, of course, the show does come out on Saturday. Our sale is Friday and Saturday. So when you're watching this, midday Saturday, late Saturday, hopefully not Sunday, because then the sale's done.
What are you doing? Go back in time.
Honestly,
watch this when it comes out, and then it's the sale.
Yeah.
Get a shirt.
Get some
this is a shirt
TNC
with a hood. It's got a hood.
It's a hoodie
sleeves.
Shirt.
You can roll them up. You can keep them. It's a shirt. You know how shirts work. You can get it for 20% off.
20% off. Everything in your cart for our spread shirt. And yeah, very excited. Honestly, it's going to be a fun week. We have a lot more stuff coming out for the Nerd Chambers Today we had a Pokemon pack opening up on YouTube. Tomorrow, of course, we have our show. So go back and watch everything from this prior week if you want some more content of the two of us or anyone else in the Nerd Chambers. But Alex, where can the people where can the people find us to make it easier?
Where to go? Where is it? They can find us.
Who are we?
I don't know where they can find it, but they can find what? I don't know. Dad. They can find us on thenerdchambers.com. That's where we are. That's our website. That has links to all of our social medias. You know them. I won't say them. The Facebook, the YouTube, the Twitter, the Instagram, the TikTok. All of those that I totally didn't just say. They're all linked there. You can see our bios. You can meet the team. If you're tired of looking at our faces, you can listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast or anything that has a podcast version on it. Thank you, Anchor. If you're tired of seeing us in general, I apologize, but not that much. But you can check out the rest of the crew on thenerdchambers.com. And while you're there, go check out the shop for the 20% off sale. If you'd like. But like. That's all I got, man.
Hey, that's all right. I appreciate it. That was a fun ride. It was a wild ride. Again, thank you so much, Heather, for the recommendation. Go ahead and check out all of her social media, GirlonFireCosplay. And yeah, that's been it. I'm Brandon. This is Alex. Bye-bye.